Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome a most honorable colleague and a friend, Mona Zamfirescu. Mona, welcome. I
Thank you,
hope
Rick.
I hope you've had a wonderful spring and the beginnings of summer. Hopefully it's not too hot where you are, global warming notwithstanding. So, um, my gosh, you've had so many new adventures. Your boys come back from overseas. You've gone. Not only are you a teacher, and that is, I don't think there is any more noble profession, but you've also gone back to be a student again to polish your writing skills. And I was wondering if, many of us are writers, I would say in the rough, strictly OJT, on the job training, simply what we can figure out. I myself am largely one of those. And although I do believe in practice, I have to say I have a great deal of respect for you. You decided to go and I would say in an academic setting, study, study the art of words. What surprised you so far about your returning to school as a student?
Well, as it often happens, Rick, it was nothing what I expected it would be. But that's a good thing because I think that that's one of the most important things that we can learn to realize that we don't know as much as we think we do, and to be humble in the face of that, and to to essentially unlearn also habits that I brought along with me. I have a tremendous respect for everyone I've encountered in this process, professors, teachers, classmates, colleagues, everybody. We learn from everyone, and I just that's the most important thing that I've learned to just um I mean, although I do like to talk a lot, but also to listen. Everyone has something to teach. And it's humbling indeed. It's humbling indeed because, and I'm speaking for myself, I started off thinking I already know. And in in some ways I do, and in many, many ways I don't. I think that I have to learn to trust my instincts, but also to have tremendous respect for other people's and understand human connection and to know myself. And I know these are big words, but you could say, how does that fit in a creative writing program? But that's the perfect place to learn about listening to yourself and being humble. Um, it's a balance, and it seems contradictory, right? Like trust myself, but also be humble. But it's true, I
Well,
think.
you've mentioned a couple things that are widely regarded as wisdom of the ancients. Regard everyone as your teacher. That humility to learn from everyone, and then also that everyone has a story. Everyone has something to tell us, to teach us, and that listening and listening with a humble ear, not only in preparation for the next argument, which we see plenty of, plenty of.
Right.
And
I can give you examples
please
like
do, please do.
um at first when I first started, and I was so proud to show my teacher a poem, and she said, "Yeah, yeah, you're so talented and everything, but I want you to work on opening your heart." And that was an opener to me because I thought I was open. But she says, "No, no. I can see what you're doing. You're trying very hard not to say what what you want to say." And I've been working with that. I think that that was a humbling experience. And working with poems now when I revise, I'm really considering that. Like, am I really saying what I want to say, or am I trying very hard not to?
that oblique angle at the truth. Yeah. No, I can appreciate that. And I like, as much as I can easily and readily agree, I also understand that human nature is such that when we when we suffer the bruises that life invariably doles out, that we tend to have some protection, have a little bit of reserve, and don't easily and readily show our hearts. So
Yeah.
I completely understand it. I think it's very normal and very human. I often will say, probably too often, that when I'm in a group of poets, that I find the simply plain spoken heart truth that they so often share is, while on the one hand, our culture doesn't honor it, it doesn't want to hear it, and is too busy selling us the next snowflake or shoe polish. So we hear a lot of mercantile jammer in our heads all the time. So I really enjoy being with a group of poets that speak about something more than the next football game or selling you the next bright shiny object. So I can appreciate what you say. Um, if there's one thing that you've already changed about your writing, what would you say that is?
Um, well, I feel like my writing has evolved over these years. Although I am deeply interested in introspection and looking at my own personal stories, I've learned to expand the forms. I've learned to embrace form as a vehicle for conveying what I want to convey. I've learned quite a bit about in school about writing sestinas or sonnets, or not that I am necessarily very good at, but I'm exploring patterns, and this is something I connect to quite naturally because of my profession. I feel very drawn on writing via nails and patterns of involve playing with patterns of repetition and exploring the musicality of language, in addition to the message. I mean, um, I did have a professor who would say, it's like, I'm not so much interested in what your story is, just that I want to hear the music. I want to see the movie. I want to see how he plays with language. And I've learned to appreciate that more than the story, the language itself is powerful. Um, I've learned to love it. Like I'm falling in love with language, with play of words, but also the beauty and of working with contradictions. Um, to see, paradoxes, how they play out, because I think that if a poem is really, really good, you can see how a paradox is really not a paradox at all. Like it's just an artifice of language. And then you can get to see the heart of the matter, regardless of the story. So I feel very fortunate that I've started on this journey, and I'm really giving it my all. I'm not in it for a career, so to speak, like for a degree or grades
You
or
you
whatever.
you
I'm
didn't become a poet to be a millionaire. I'm shocked.
no, yeah, no, I'm not gonna make any money, I'm sure. Um, yeah, that's another thing we were told in school. It says like you're not gonna make any money from you might, but don't count on it. So that was one of the first things we learned.
The only exception to that being if you got into jingles at an ad agency, then there might be
Well,
some
yeah, I'm
money
I'm
in
I'm
that.
not interested. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Obviously, going to school as a student is a much different experience than going to school as an educator. Have you noticed, I won't say status differences, but kind of mental focus differences, how one
Yeah.
approaches the
Well,
school?
It was a challenge, so to speak, because um I do talk a lot as a teacher, right? Like I do present my work. I'm trying to engage with the students. So I'm kind of like the boss, right?
Right.
Um, and being a student meant take a step back from that, but old habits die hard, so to speak. And I found myself trying to take over the conversation, which was not a good idea. And it was again humbling to realize that and to I mean, the more self-aware you are, the better you become as a poet anyway, as a writer. So that in itself was a plus, right? Like oh, now it's time to be quiet.
Well, I also think that in all probability, there's a cross fertilization too. That working as a student on poetry, which kind of engages one set of mental apparatus, if I can be so mechanical, but as a teacher, I have to imagine that there's a certain bleed through. And I want to point to an experience I had. I was taking a broadcast engineering class, theories of electronics, waveforms, understanding audio signals and broadcast transmitter uh, logic. And I kept thinking that the teacher explaining these rather esoteric, very electronic ideas kept using what sounded to me like Buddhist metaphors, right? So at one point I pulled him aside and I said, I feel I have to say this. I said, I keep seeing you in my mind's eye wearing Buddhist robes. And he looked at me. He was completely shocked. He said, why do you say that? And I said, well, I've studied widely in religion. I've taken a lot of spiritual study. And it just seems to me that the metaphors that you're using, which I completely get, I mean, I get the yin and yang of ones and zeros. I totally get that. And I get the logic, drawing out circuits as both an exercise in logic and an exercise in energy. And I said, I just had to say something. And he said, that's almost spooky. He said, my master's degree is in philosophy and I'm a Buddhist. And I said, well, you're not hiding it very well from those of us who have a sense of it. So are you finding richer metaphors and when you teach your mathematics courses?
Not really. I'm not using my mathematics as a source of inspiration. My one of my teachers asked me, it's like I can see a whole volume ahead of you. I said, well, I don't know. You have better eyes than I do. Um, but I actually am more interested in the human aspect. I mean, even in this day and age, so to speak, when I go to teach my classes, and I'm obviously having to consider that I convey my material, which is mathematics, right? But I always keep in the back of my mind that before I'm a mathematician, I'm a human, and I'm a human being, and I show up as a human being, and there's more to that that meets the eye, like we how I present myself, how I deal with adversity, how I face various challenges in the course of the teaching of the class. That's also something I teach. If I'm calm, if I am respectful, if I am making connection with the students, eye contact, like if all of these things matter. I'm not a machine, obviously. So I think that my presence as a present as in itself is important. And I'm learning to work with that, like because the mathematics is what it is. Like you can argue I can read it in a book, or I can look it up online, or I could do any number of things to get past that, like the technical aspects. But what I'm really interested in, can I get to love it? Can I get to meet it as a friend? Can I embrace whatever challenge I come across as a teacher? As my teacher, like the challenge is my teacher. And this is what interests me most about my profession. And that's what I take with me wherever I go. Like if I'm a student, I am a student also in the same way. Like I'm first and foremost human. And I want, as a poet, to be in touch with that, like to be in touch with who I am, but who I am beneath the layers, like beneath the constructs, beneath the conventions of, you know, society and the world we live in. I'm
Absolutely.
very, very much interested in that. And I think that I'm interested in making my students feel the same way, and maybe my readers as well. Like, I think that that's one of the most powerful things that we can do to establish a human connection and a human understanding of what it means to be in connection and to be in this world.
Very lovely. I I uh, I can't help but think of there's a famous Buddhist koan that says, "Show me your face before you were born," and I think you're getting at that same idea that beyond the cultural constructs, all those layers and duties and responsibilities and the things that we take on, there is a self deeper than those duties.
I think the poetry gives me a perfect vehicle to work with it, because when I'm writing, say, a first draft of a poem, I bring in much of that conventional sort of uh, cultural um, habit. And then comes the editing, which means peeling off the layers. Like, let's look deeper. What is it that I'm really trying to say? And then editing, I've learned to appreciate this process where I'm trying to get to what I'm really actually interested in, which may not be the first draft at all.
Well, I know that much of your work in the past has complemented your photography. And I realize that in today's world, there's a lot of harvesting of artwork of all kinds. And I know you've mentioned to me a certain reticence now to share your photographs or your artwork as readily as you have in the past. And I appreciate that. But I just wonder, since so much of your past writing has been inspired by the nature that you love so much, that you spend time enjoying non-human constructs of nature. I wonder, are you feeling that as a loss or as a new door opening?
I feel this as a challenge. I seem to remember when we discussed ekphrastic poetry in school that we were told, please do not attach the photo that you are writing on. The poem should be able to live on its own. So, although it's beautiful to have the photography as an inspiration, but the poetry itself, the language should carry the same feeling. And I take that as a challenge, because then the photography could be a crutch that would stifle me in developing the language.
Well, I suspect that there's obviously more than one way to play that particular paradigm. Um, but be that as it may. Now, your work, not only your words, but your pictures have been always really, really beautiful. So capturing moments of such natural beauty. I have to say I'm looking forward to seeing the next beautiful photography from my good friend Mona. Okay, next question. Um, having now looked at poetry and writing from a more academic stance, let's say a more analytical stance, rather than a poet in the trenches carving out your next delight. Are there authors that you've come across through your education that surprised you, that you found inspiring, that knocked your socks off, so to speak?
Well, we read a variety of poets, so I wouldn't say there's just one. Like that wouldn't work.
Okay,
Uh,
among those that
yeah.
have spoke to you.
Okay. I can talk about a poet that I really connected to. It was not part of my study in school, but um I shouldn't even use the word aspire, but that's the first word that comes to mind right now. Jane Hirschfield is my hero. She's a hero of mine. I absolutely adore her poetry, and I feel drawn to the simplicity of her work. But part of what interests me so much in her work is that she talked in some podcast about her trajectory as an artist, as a poet, and she graduated, I think, from Princeton, and she studied poetry, and she was all poised to start writing and just be ready to. And then she went to a Zen monastery, and she was there for many years, and she stopped writing all this time. And she talked about how that was a most fertile time for her, that having the technical knowledge for to be a writer is not enough. Like, you have to open your heart. That's exactly what my teachers told me in school. Like, that's a priority, because unless the heart is open, then all we do is that we're recycling ideas that a computer could do. But we can be human, fully human, when we are in touch with that which we cannot name, which we cannot express in words. But if we do manage to, um, and what she wrote after that extended period of silence, like she really was in silence, in solitude, it's just mind-blowing to me in its simplicity, right? She doesn't write complicated, like poems, but the simplicity of her work is just stunning in its profundity.
I this is one of my favorite questions. There are those who argue that you should wait for inspiration, that forcing inspiration, forcing is too mechanical a process, that it's going to end up being dry. And then on the other hand, the other school, the other extreme, if you will, is write every day, whether it's important or not. Write, just polish your writing skills so that when inspiration does come. So on that spectrum, from wait until inspiration to write every day, where do you fall in that spectrum?
Oh gosh. I found that I respond well to structure. In school, for instance, we write every week, right? Like, we have assignments for every. So that was important. It keeps you sort of focused. Um, that's not to say that all the poems were good, but by the time I got to the end of I got into the groove of things. Um, and I've also participated in challenges like 30 poems in 30 days in April recently. And for the first time, I was able to write nearly 30 poems. Let's just say 29. I was almost there. But that was also interesting. That was also very interesting to me, because we would get a prompt every day, and we had 24 hours to work on it. So it wasn't quite as free, in the sense that I wasn't just writing whatever. I had to respond to a prompt, which I also find helpful sometimes, because because you need something to start. I keep saying my teacher said. So one of the things my teacher said was the about is not what it is about. It's like you write a poem about trees, but you're really not writing about trees. You're writing about yourself or something that you need to get to, and that's why you're writing, to find out really why are you writing. So a prompt is helpful because it's just like a hook. It's like you're fishing, and you're using a bait, and then you see what happens.
I had come across uh, in a short story collection by Italo Calvino, one of my favorite absurdist writers, and he mentions, for people who uh, feel they're in a dry spell or the famous writer's block, that he recommended a very simple course, and I thought I would try it. He recommended sitting down, picking some completely trivial activity, something that you would never treat as a poem or a short story, and just write the hell out of it. Really try to nail down exactly what's going on in your mind or in the world, and never intend to show it to anyone. Tear it up. But the idea is to try to capture some triviality, some innocuous little behavior, and just really try to give it a respect that it doesn't deserve. And since you're not going to show it to anybody, that whole cloud of expectation and, oh my God, I've got to do this because they'll think that, and that all that nonsense is just brushed away. So I literally sat down right as I read this. And one of the things that I had to get done that morning was to collect all the recyclables, get them out to the street so they could be picked up. And I thought, if there is a more trivial activity, handling not even just refuse, but the recyclable stuff. It's not even garbage, it's so inconsequential. So I wrote a description of that whole process, and I was so happy with it at the end. I did show it to somebody.
And
Next
um,
question. I don't think that you're probably one of those people that succumbs to writer's block.
oh, I do. I take pauses.
Okay, okay. Um, Now you have transformed yourself. You're a new kind of poet than you were pre-study. Do you find there's new themes that you're returning to?
Um, I would say that I have more access to ways of expression. For instance, I used to write my poems almost mechanically in like a one column and all. I wouldn't try rhyme or anything, just free verse and very sort of habituated in writing in a specific way. And now I find myself that I'm more ready to experiment. I'm very excited about writing prose poems, which I never attempted before. I've experienced with weird formatting in the page. I've actually created a form too. I mean, it was not created, but I've used something which is near and dear to my heart, like Fibonacci numbers, to kind of create a new structure. But I do consider much more how the structure of the poem fits what I'm trying to say. And I do come back to themes that maybe were uncomfortable to me earlier on, but I'm also experimenting writing about things in a more impersonal way, like not necessarily lyrical poetry, which is this is how I started. I started with I. But
Okay,
I find myself that I'm moving towards other pronouns.
okay. Let me ask you this. Now, let's say I'm gonna make an assumption, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Most of your writing and reading aloud has been on the Zoom community, let's say for the last few years. But now I think you probably have opportunities to read with your fellow students. Have you done some reading with the poets in your class?
Oh yeah, we have a City College reading series that happens every month. But I'm also part of local poetry communities like the Red Wheelbarrow Poets out of Rutherford. This is a poetry group that was built, I don't know how many years ago, 20 years ago, something like that, in to honor Williams, Carlos Williams, who was our famous poet in Rutherford, New Jersey. And it's quite a lovely group. I am so happy I have come across these poets who are writing a fantastic poetry reading series and workshops. So I am really, really very happy about it.
Wonderful. Do you feel that, since you've been evolving as a writer, do you think your performance of poetry has evolved too?
Maybe I think I've always just been myself. Like I'm not performing really. I'm just being myself. And because I really feel my poems, maybe that's what comes across in the performance bit. But I'm not really what you would call a performance poet. Like I
Okay.
wouldn't fit on the slam scene. Um, but I am totally comfortable in my own skin, and I can always show up as myself.
Well, that's good. That's good. You have a lovely soul,
Well, thank you.
both from the heart and from your form. Okay, next question. Um, do you think poets have a responsibility to society to address topics of concern, or is that really only by choice?
I think I want to be careful about this because everyone has their own feeling and their own sense of how they need to be in the world. And who am I to tell anyone really what to do? But what I feel that it is our responsibility, regardless of whether we write or paint or just show up at work every day. I think it's our responsibility as human beings to know ourselves and to work towards uh, um, understanding and compassion. I think we have a responsibility towards each other. And I cannot tell anyone what form it will take. Like for some people, maybe they need to be um, activists. Other people have to write a certain kind of poetry. Other people may just sit quietly, and that's okay too. Because we all have our own way of being in the world, and within that, we have to do the best we can. That's my feeling. And as such, I cannot tell anyone what to do, but
Well,
I
you
can work
you
on
already
myself.
are smarter than most of the world.
But I could totally commit to working on myself. And to mean by that, I do not mean like self-improvement. I mean really like what my poetry teacher said, open the heart. Whatever
Okay,
we need is already there. I feel that. I have faith.
okay. We're coming down to the end of the questions, but I have been asking over the years, what is a good poet? But I want to change it slightly for you because you're a very educated poet and I think a very thoughtful one. Instead of what makes a good poet, I'm going to ask you, is there such a thing as a good poet?
Hmm.
I only ask tough questions of wise people.
Well, it depends on what you mean. Like, everything is context based. Like, I think there are poets that are very successful for sure. One should not discount that. Like, there's definitely giants out there whom nobody can deny, right? Like we study them, they're classics. We study them in school, and everyone should read, really. Um, but then when it comes to, say, me, I'm not so worried about whether or not I'm a good poet. Let's just say I'm talking about me because I don't want to talk about others.
Sure.
I'm not that worried about it. Am I good or bad? Am I almost good? Am I half good? Am I, 75% good? I don't know. Uh, the only question that I really have is, am I learning? Am I growing? Am I open? These are questions I have for myself. Is it authentic? Is it honest? What I'm writing? And then I would leave the question of good or bad to whomever is interested, because quite frankly, I'm not, I'm not interested in that particular question. Like, that's not why I write.
Okay. Good
Yeah.
answer. Good answer. Um, if a young person were to ask you, I write a little of this, I write a little of that. I wonder, is poetry worth it? Is poetry worth spending time on?
I would say if you're spending the time writing, keep writing. If
Good answer.
writing doesn't interest you, then don't worry about it. But if it interests you even a little bit, try and try harder. And I would say don't give up if, like others might discourage you. Like, just don't give up. If it interests you, keep going. But
Good
that's
answer.
the key.
Good answer. Okay. Last two questions.
Okay.
Are you working on a piece right now?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. What's on your desk? What's on your writing desk, your reading desk?
You mean my computer?
I, what are you reading?
What am I reading? Oh gosh. Um, I have I read a couple of books of my fellow poets from Red Wheelbarrow because I was interested in submitting book reviews for their upcoming anthologies. So that's what I just read recently. Two poetry collections of my fellow poets from the Red Wheelbarrow group, Frank Rubino and Brendan McEntee. Wonderful, wonderful books. I'm hoping that the reviews will appear, but if not, I will try to submit them somewhere else as well. I think that these are wonderful, wonderful poets, and I'm happy I was able to write about their books.
Okay. Now the fun part. Can I ask the charming poet Mona to share some of her work?
Okay. I prepared my book. I
Oh,
have my book here. The book has appeared technically December, but practically January this year. This is a book published by Poetry Global Network, and I wanted to say that I'm so very grateful for PGN for giving me this opportunity and working with me to bring this book alive. So the book is called Who Looks Outside Dreams. The cover art is also mine. This is my artwork, a photographer. This is an actual heron, right? Um, and this is a collection which it was quite a surprise to me that it just sort of fell on my lap. I knew about the call for submissions, and my good friend Marianne or somebody else must have been just made me aware. Hey, there's a submission there. Like, do you have anything going? And I said, no, really. Like, I have poems, but like I don't have a book. And I was told, well, give it a try, like give it a go. And I put my poems together and I submitted it. And before you know it, I get a call back. We want to publish your book. So I've worked over the summer with Martin Gray, which was an awesome, awesome editor and poet friend. And I've come to understand my book a little bit better after working every single poem with them. So this is the book. This is the collection I'm really proud of. And this is my first. This is my first
Of many, of many.
hopefully, yeah.
Ha, ha.
This book carries two main themes. I'm talking about water and I'm talking about fire, and I'm really exploring these two sort of elements. But with this central question, like, who am I really? Am I the water? Am I the fire? Or am I both? And throughout the collection, these are the main themes that appear. So let's start with water. I need glasses. Rusalka Ghazal, or Ghazal. One day, inside this pearl body, we'll find a river. We, like tributaries, will become that river. Under the moon, the circle dance. I fish, you human. Step in, we feel the velvet green, the scum, the river. The sinuous meander of what was just a brook. The mountain score, its song, its hum, a river. Ensnared in these dark waters, you fishing me, I humaning you. Unheard under the waves, the drum, its river. The beat that carves rock into riverbed, it's calling. I fish, you human. We bleed from our gums the river. Who am I? Who are you? We asked, unhinged, unsatisfied. We link like currents in a conscious stream, the river. Unhinged, unsatisfied, you fish, I human, the pearl, a dream away. Into a delta will succumb the river. Our shells dissolve where life begins, in the Black Sea. Rusalka is my name. In the Black Sea, I am the river.
Lovely.
Next poem explores fire. Fire. I wrote this poem in September 2024 after a school shooting at the Georgia high school. And unfortunately, we have too many of these, but what caught my attention at this particular high school shooting was that one of the people that was killed, the teacher, was a teacher like me, a woman from Romania, who was also a mathematics. She was teaching mathematics, same age, same
Wow.
training, same look,
Wow.
same place. She could have been me. And that's what struck me because it's true. It's true. It could have been any of us. And I contemplated this from this perspective. I mean, there's many ways that one could write about tragedies of this sort, and I chose to look at through this lens. I wrote this poem in 4 parts, 9 stanzas to commemorate the 4 killed and 9 wounded. 4 parts, 9 stanzas. Part 1. I could almost be happy. First September mornings, clear skies, and kids like mine on their way to school. On such a day, the year of the fall, in the city of concrete sustenance, a son was born of my American dream. The ecology of glass and steel, still foreign to us. I was almost happy months before rubble hit the ground. Years later, I find my words are broken between my native and my adopted tongue, the way the sky falls in morning. Nothing will happen here is hope, yet every day, here or somewhere, another happening breaks us open, my son would say, from a desert afar. No longer a kid. He will return one day, a man. 2. On my way to school in Bryant Park in the sun, another year's September. I could almost be happy. An old man sweeps the alleys, leaves and blossoms and passers-by. He greets the morning like peaches and young magnolias with light a face. Surely he knows loss. His eyes show it, chocolate left out in the sun soft, yet happy. Happy. An old man not clutching at anything. Look, look, he says, flowering like Spanish moss on live oaks. Show up. It's easy. Give what you can give. 3. Today, under the same sun, a different kind of heat. In a world absurd, there is certainty in numbers. Teachers like me, kids like mine, bullets. Who would not step in front of one? 4. When all is done and dusted, Mom, I will enlist again. There is certainty in numbers. I keep count, my breath, in and out, my feet slow, one after the other. I feel heat against my skin. I forget about happiness. I show up. I count the heat.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
This is an interesting poem. It has nothing to do with water or maybe it does, both water and fire. This is water and fire. This
Okay.
is one of the most optimistic poems in my entire collection.
My
It's
goodness.
called Graduation Day Glossa. Just to briefly say what a glossa is a poem of four stanzas, each 10 lines, and each of the stanzas ends with a line of a quatrain that sort of the glossa is based on. So the quatrain that I picked is The Commuter's Lament, or A Close Shave by Norman Cope, which is a poem that's hanging from the rafters in New York Port Authority. So commuters see it as you go through the passageways, you see it, hanging from the rafters line by line. And it goes like this. And then you see the first line and then you move to the next. Overslept, so tired, if late, get fired. Why bother? Why the pain? Just go home, do it again. So this is the commuter's lament, right? I saw this commuter's lament going in the city for the graduation ceremony I was gonna attend for, as a faculty for my school. So this is the poem I wrote upon returning home. Graduation Day, Glossa. Hope is strategy. Monarch butterflies tucked in celebration among chrysanthemums on a graduation cap. A baby's fingers grasping a shoulder, strong and wound up ebony curls. A look across the aisle that says, at last, here I am. Who has not said at least once, overslept, so tired? Hope is revolutionary. A man with no legs chanting thank you to no one. A passageway and no one behind you except others on their way to work. An ex-Marine's most eloquent speech welcoming alumni into this world. Hope, he says, is showing up. Who has not said at least once, if late, get fired, why bother? Hope is resourcefulness. Is someone there to see the look in the eyes of the men with 10 bags and no place to sleep? In the end train, the woman who sells churros, the lots for less moms and dads, the ocean who refuses no river. Who has not said at least once, why the pain? Hope is strength. The confetti that fills no molds. 104 languages spoken in plenitude of color. The moms and dads. What has changed over time? I was asked. Not this, I answered. Not this. Hope is everyone who has said at least once, just go home, do it again.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely.
I want to read a poem that's my favorite, actually, from the collection. And this touches a little bit on what you were saying earlier about writing, about taking the recycling out, about writing about something that's very ordinary. Um, this was a school assignment. I was supposed to write an ode, and I really struggled with this because I thought, like, what am I gonna write an ode about? But then I settled on in sort of in the tradition of Pablo Neruda. I settled on something very ordinary. So this is how Ode to Moss came to be. This is my favorite poem, absolutely, from the entire collection. Ode to Moss. In the beginning, there was you, from algae to land. You, 450 million years without roots. Your filaments able on hard rock, in mineral soil, disturbed soil. You who inhabits the logs, the burn stumps, the bogs, on cliff sips, waterfall sprays, you unassuming. Cosmopolitan in cracks between paving stones, slippery on damp Singapore streets, on roofs, a garden weed in Vancouver. You, the carbon-soaking sidewalk moss, water-soaking the small light of shade. You, holy aquatic citizen of the marshes, you creep in slow-moving waterways to become more of yourself. You travel across continents with the ease of the unseen. Soft and smooth, your velvet green measures the air. You survive desiccation, extremes. You return to life like a sponge that sucks up moisture from thin air, like us, an immigrant, an immigrant.
Lovely.
You epiphyte on cedars and oaks, green balm, you antiseptic swathe, you feel the bandages of the wounded, the long history of devastation. Here, the luxuriant green growth points to the boreal tundra. You warm reindeer blood on its Arctic journey. The southern living advises, questions, is it hurting the grass, this primitive? Will it disturb the civilized manicure perfection? How to get rid of moss in your lawn. After long winters, I come into the woods to touch the down trees. I find you here, holding the soil with your fragmented colonies. I find you mothering the understory. We, immigrants here, we meet.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Continue, my dear, please.
Okay, okay. I am thinking the last poem in this collection is called Doorway. And I want to read it before. I want to show also a video. I have made a video recording of one of the poems in this collection, so I want to show that right after.
Okay.
But this is the way the collection ends. Is this not a circle, the tall reed that echoes the blackbird's mating dance? An eagle soars above Tranquility Ridge, then another. A cormorant awaits patiently, its heart beats across the waters. On a nearby tree, the other. The moon rises over velvet hills, almost full, almost perfect. The sun sets into this moment, now bent into itself like the reed, holding the balance of the red-winged, its mate black-winged, circles the waters and me like a brush. My arms are strong. I too draw circles in the air, each one a window. No hesitation. Left, right, left. The cadence of my paddle in the wind is round, steady in the distance, the woods vibrant, pulsing my lungs. In the wake of my flow, the hills point to a doorway I must have passed without knowing. I must have entered its mystery with each pull against the waters. They whisper, first young, then old, then young again.
Lovely.
And this video, by the way, I made it based on my photography. I should make sure I share with sound.
Okay.
Where I go, you can't follow. A poem written and read by Mona Zamfirescu. Where I go, you can't follow. The blue heron, its wings wide, elegant and sharp in its circular flight above me. Deeper into the marshes, I did not believe, nor did I understand. My arms are strained. I paddle forward. I follow him. Him patient and ready, the waters quieter than my breath. Where I go, you can't follow. A raft of cormorants leans in, the water still before their takeoff. The woods green with a blackbird's warble. He flies by like an arrow. Where I go, you can't follow. I hear them whisper. I feel my arms. Slow heartbeats echo my longing. The forest chatter in the midday light. Fallen trees raise branches above the water. They too. Where I go, you can't follow. My arms are strained. Harsh on my skin the sun burns, the forest cool and green. At last, on the rocky path, barefoot and wet, I feel every edge, solid and urgent. I carry my wares beyond sorrow. Finally, I understand. Where I go, you can't follow.
Exquisite. Really, really lovely. Beautiful. Of course, beautiful photography and a very beautiful poem, and so wonderfully read. I have to tell you a little story. After being trained as a video editor at a broadcast studio, I got my first assignment to go out and shoot. It was a promo for an art festival held right on the water near a lovely architectural structure. It was made to look like a ship that had run aground, this mansion with it had big cement docks, and it was right on Biscayne Bay, a very natural scape for Miami. And I had decided that my opening shot would be at sunrise as the sun began to come up over the bay. And there's a wild area on either side of this mansion. So I had the hope of perhaps, maybe, getting some wildlife in the shot. The rest of it would be establishing shots of the buildings and the grounds so that you've got a sense of where this thing was going to go. But as I set up for my opening shot, just before sunrise, I aimed my camera where I could see the sun was going to come up. And as I hit roll tape, here comes a beautiful heron And my thought had been to pan across the bay as the sun shimmered across the water, right? So just as I'm beginning to do my cross the bay shot, this crane flies into shot and just perfectly kept such a lovely rhythm across my horizon. And I bring it back to the studio. I am thrilled. I got this beautiful, incredible dawn, the water, the color, the pinks and oranges and golds. It couldn't have been prettier. It was achingly pretty, right? So I'm so proud. I thought, my God, the gods were with me. I got this synchronized shot. It's exquisite. And I'm going to play this underneath my title, right? I show it to the editor that trained me. And I'm thinking, oh, damn, Rick, good shot. That's gorgeous. And instead he said, oh my God, what did you do? I said, excuse me? He said, it's too pretty. And I went, what? Now, keep in mind, this was mid 70s, way before MTV, way before, if you will, the revolution that became TV in the late 70s and 80s. And he said, Richard, this is horrible. Any commercial is supposed to have what we call industrial. It's supposed to look industrial. And I said, oh, you know what? No, no, not for me. I would rather be fired if that's your call on this just exquisite piece of video, then I'm fine with that. And he goes, well, I guess we'll use it, but damn, man, it's too pretty. You made pretty video, and I thought, now if there's something to be condemned for, sign me up. Pretty video, yeah, I'll take that.
Um, Speaking of that, I have one more poem I wanted to
Please,
read.
please, and then
But
I'm gonna
yeah,
tell you one.
yeah. The story with this poem is that I wanted to use a Fibonacci number somehow. And I'm sure you know Fibonacci numbers follow
Yes.
the pattern of, say, adding up the previous two numbers in the sequence. So you start with 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and so on. There's so many things that you can say about it, but in this particular poem, I wanted to use that pattern, and it kind of matters, visually, because in my poem, first stanza is one line, the next stanza is another line, and then I go 2 lines, 3 lines, 5 lines, and 8. So in that sense, this is a Fibonacci poem, and it will appear in the Fibonacci Fib magazine. This is a magazine dedicated to Fibonacci sequence poems, which have quite interestingly a different pattern, but counting syllables rather than lines.
Okay.
But nonetheless, I counted lines, and my poem was accepted in this very wonderful magazine. So here is the poem, and you are gonna recognize the repetition as the lines add up. So I'm using the Fibonacci pattern, which relies on adding up the previous two lines, so to speak. So my poem is called The Fibonacci Mountain. Though they are the same, my mountain is incomprehensible to your mountain, even though they are the same. I climbed the east side of mine and you the west side of yours, even though my mountain is incomprehensible to your mountain, even though they are the same. We travel together linked in an invisible circle of synchronicities, even though I climbed the east side of mine and you the west side of yours, even though my mountain is incomprehensible to your mountain, even though they are the same. On the path, the sun is harsh and the winds are unforgiving. The further we get, the easier it is to see we are getting on in years. Is there still time to reach the top? Even though we travel together, linked in an invisible circle of synchronicities, even though I climb the east side of mine and you the west side of yours, even though my mountain is incomprehensible to your mountain, even though they are the same. One day we will know why quitting is not an option. We don't know whether we will meet, though we are climbing the same mountain. The desire to hold on to the pleasures of the valley has melted. Yet we keep going incredible distances, even though on the path the sun is harsh and the winds are unforgiving. Even though the further we get, the easier it is to see we're getting on in years. And there's not much time left to reach the top. Even though we travel together, linked in an invisible circle of synchronicities. Even though I climb the east side of mine and you the west side of yours. Even though my mountain is incomprehensible to your mountain. Even though they are the same.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. It is such an interesting metaphor, the east side of mine and the west side of yours. I really like that. I think it's just lovely. And while, as the fates would have it, my computer is being somewhat reluctant to do what I would like, instead, I'm going to offer you something else. This, since I think as a mathematician, the idea of infinity is something that you've wrapped your head around. I'm going to share this. This is called There Is No Ultimate Question. If there was an ultimate question, there could be an end to time's double bend. The spiral helix of when could hardly ever again expose to its friends its hopes or its plans, or suggest what it really intends. No equation ever stops. It hops on and on and on, namelessly, ceaselessly, baiting, tear-chasing headaches, the heartaches created by those even counting on toes could hardly suppress just one end of a question of morals, the florals lament. What of the end of events? No ceasing, increasing the doubts in cautious amounts, uncertainty rising, a constant career, his manners while wheedling would blow in your ear to suggest you insist on when. On new horizons of fame, an unlimited game, even infinity gets tired and hires a cab, calls from his prefab, close his manicured lawn and its large cement fawn. How tacky of infinity, how shamelessly, heedlessly breaking bounds of good taste, how misbegotten on fate, he was more than a little late. Bothered, coming because he's always next. So after living so long to next and never to,
Wonderful. Thank you, Rick.
oh, thank you, my dear. It's so lovely having a chance to spend a little time with you. If there was one thing you would want to say to poets, what gift of your thought, of your training, of your experience, what gift would you give those poets who will listen in later?
Oh, this may sound weird, but I say give yourself permission to fail.
Bravo. Bravo. And I think we have to take that in the context of what is a good poet. Thank you so much, Mona. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope to see you again on some future Zoom.
Absolutely.
You take
Absolutely.
care, dear.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, Rick. Bye.